Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel.
We're back after a long break. 2 weeks, Dash. We haven't been here in a while.
We've had, it just really has been inconsistent with,
Yeah.
all the weather phenomenons and all the breaks that we've had recently. It's been kind of hard to get a weekly show going lately.
Definitely. I'm glad I had that Mexico trip. But hey, it's
Yeah.
gotten better out. I came back. I'm like, whoa, it's not that bad. It's pretty warm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm feeling good right now, too, with this weather. I am feeling good to talk about some baseball and softball right now since the weather is finally good for us.
Okay, great segue. So, get into Bison baseball. Before we get into their last matchup, we'll get into the series before in which we missed. They played SDSU and went 2-1 in Iowa. Continued to keep the ball rolling from the series before. Get into the first game, the Bison won 10-2. Straight business. NDSU scored 3 runs in the third and fourth and the fifth to cap off their 3 runs in the last 2 innings.
Unfortunately, the Bison would fall 9-8 to the Jackrabbits in the second game. This game was definitely a blow-for-blow kind of game. SDSU came out swinging, scoring 5 runs in the second inning and 1 in the third. But NDSU returned with a total of 5 runs in the third and fourth inning combined. And unfortunately, they were still down by 1, but SDSU came back scoring 3 more runs in the 8th inning to eventually take the victory.
Yep, in the third game, another dogfight, right? After the first inning, SDSU was up 3-2, but NDSU came back with 2 runs in the third and 1 in the fifth to take the game 5-4. So, pretty good. And then they get into the next matchup, right? Texas Tech.
22nd ranked, nationally Texas Tech.
Definitely. And this series was not going to go, as planned. Another non-conference team, but like you said, 23rd ranked, and it didn't go so well.
It didn't go so well, but, the fact that they still came out of there with a victory, at least winning one of those games is, definitely nothing to be upset about.
Yep, they went 2-1. Not horrible. Could have got swept. Get into it Friday, first game. The Bison were about straight business. They won 8-1. I wonder if it caught Texas Tech off guard. Different playing styles, different conference.
I mean, I don't know if it caught Texas Tech off guard or maybe NDSU just finally had everything clicked together for once. I mean, the pitching was outstanding. The hitting was as good as ever. And, I mean, you talked about, having one victory out of the 3, but at least their one victory, it was a dominating victory, too. It wasn't like it was just, close or they barely got away with it. They dominated from start to finish.
Yeah, Texas Tech got an early lead, scoring 1 run in the second, and then NDSU replied with 2 runs in the third, 1 in the fourth and fifth, with courtesy to junior Caden Schwabe, tied it up, and then senior Drew Shackett had an RBI double to take the lead.
And the Bison had a 5-1 lead heading into the 9th inning. Davis Hamilton hit an RBI single to center field, and the Bison would get an unearned run after Caden Schwabe was hit by a pitch.
Yeah.
And then finally, Drew Shackett would hit a 2 RBI double, which gave the Bison their 8-1 upset over 22nd ranked Texas Tech Raiders.
Needless to say, Drew Shackett had himself a game. Speaking of that, senior Drew Shackett led the Bison with 4 hits, 3 RBIs, and 1 run.
Davis Hamilton had 2 hits, 2 runs, and an RBI.
Just to talk about this game, too, the Bison totaled with 13 hits. I mean, season high of 7 doubles. This game was electric.
Yeah, hitting was outstanding in this game. I mean, as it has been all season. I mean, hitting has been consistently very good. There's been a lot of games where you see NDSU getting from anywhere from 7 to 10 runs in a game. And, this is a very good recipe right now for this NDSU baseball team.
Yep, and also pitching was dominating this game. Cade Feeney, 5 strikeouts. I think he only gave up, 1 run over 6 innings. So he had himself a game, too.
And this is the first game, too, so it's not like you're exactly expecting everybody to be a little bit exhausted from the series or anything. They came out on fire right away.
And that fire was let out the next day for Saturday's doubleheader because it went downhill. So the first game, the Bison were defeated 8-5. After 3 scoreless innings, the Red Raiders scored 4 runs off 3 hits, courtesy to a 2-run home run to take the lead 4-0.
NDSU would finally get on the board in the 6th inning after James Dunlap would bring in a run on a ground out. Texas Tech would score 3 more runs in the bottom of the inning, and the Bison would try to mount a comeback with a run in the 7th and 3 RBIs in the 8th, but it wouldn't be enough as they lost 8-5.
Yep, Junior Jack Style led the Bison with 2 hits, 2 RBIs, and 1 run.
Garrett Hill had 2 hits and an RBI.
Yep, in Game 2, the Bison lost. Got worse, 8-3. The Bison jumped out to an early lead, though, 2-0 in the second inning, and then things went quiet until the 6th. Texas Tech scored a total of 5 runs in the 4th and 5th inning, and then 1 more in the 6th. 3 of those came from a 3-run home run to left field. So just a tough blow late in the game.
Yeah, and the Bison were able to score 1 more run in the 6th inning after Jack Style hit a flyout, but the runs just kept coming for Texas Tech as they scored 1 more run in both the 8th and the 9th innings to pretty much put the game away.
Yep, senior Peter Brookshaw led the Bison with 2 hits and 1 run.
Carson Hake had 1 hit, 1 run, and an RBI.
Yep, so just to get into this series, being that it was a top 25 team in the nation, and despite of that, I think the Bison held their own. And I say that because, one of the games, they only held Texas Tech to 6 hits. And this is a team that, is, like I said, top 25. And I think the Bison held their own in spite of that, but it's 2-1 series for them not to get swept. I think you can't really complain with this performance.
And even in the losses, they were manageable losses.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they lost by 10 or more, where it had to be like a mercy rule that had to be put into play or anything. They kept it decently close at times. It's just unfortunately the things that kind of undid them was certain stretches and innings where they would give up like 4 runs in 2 innings, and that would just kind of set them back.
Definitely, I think execution was the biggest thing in this series rather than lack of talent. And then on Tuesday, they had another non-conference matchup against the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, the Gophers. It was a hard-fought game, but the Gophers ultimately got the win 12-9. This game was pretty tough, and we harped this on before against the previous series. But the Bison came out with a sense of urgency, scoring 4 runs in the first inning. The first run came from Caden Schwabe, and then James Dunlap, Davis Hamilton, and Will Bush had RBI singles, and then the Gophers replied with 2 runs of their own in the second. And then in the fifth, the Gophers racked up 4 runs to take the lead 6-5.
But things got intense in the 6th inning as senior Terrell Hugans blasted a 3-run home run to left field to regain the lead 8-6, and the Bison were able to get another score on a fielding error to increase the lead to 9-6. But unfortunately, Minnesota answered right away with a 2-run home run in the bottom of that inning, and Minnesota would eventually retake the lead by bringing in 3 runs in the 7th and 1 in the 8th to eventually take the game 12-9.
Yep, senior Terrell Hugans blasted 2 hits, 4 RBIs, and 1 run.
Caden Schwabe had 3 hits and 3 runs.
So to get into this game just got away from him. Like, I like the energy in the beginning, scoring those 4 runs in the first inning, and even coming back on the 6th to try to regain the lead, scoring 4 runs again. I mean, you can't ask for a better comeback, but it just slipped away from him. The Gophers had the number.
Well, again with pitching, and like late in the 7th and 8th innings, you give up 4 runs in 2 innings, and unfortunately, in a close dogfight game like that, you can't give up those crucial runs towards the end.
Yeah, it just sucks because Carson Jacobs gave up 4 hits and 4 runs in just 1 inning, and I think that was in the 5th. But that was a tough blow, especially that late of the game, especially that close of a game, just to let that happen.
And you would think after something like Terrell Hugans getting that 3-run home run to give them the lead, and maybe they can rally around that. They're up by 3, 9-6, and it just all fell apart after that.
All fell apart. But they are now 8-23 overall, 4-2 in the conference. They're currently in St. Paul, Minnesota, going against the St. Thomas Tommies for a doubleheader. Their first game was at noon. Dash, what is the update on that?
We are currently in the top of the 8th of that game, and NDSU has dominated this game from start to finish. They are up 12-3 right now. They scored 7 runs in the first 2 innings, and they have 14 hits and 3 doubles, 2 triples, and they also have a home run. So this has just been an outstanding day for the Bison.
Yeah, their next game will be at 3 p.m. This will be their 3rd conference matchup, so hopefully they can keep the ball rolling. It looks like you have another stat coming
I would like to just mention, yes, we do have another score for the Bison. Dunlap just scored in on a fielder's choice, so we have another RBI, so the Bison are now up 13-3.
Yep. Keep it going, the Bison. Switching to softball, before we get into their last matchup, we missed their series before that, Western Illinois. They went 2-1, so softball is still going strong. They lost the first game 6-5. Tough blow. The Bison were up 3-2 after the first inning, and then the Leathernecks scored 3 runs in the 3rd and a game-winning run in the 8th to take the win.
In Game 2, it was a pitching duel, however, and the Bison were able to come out of it with a 1-0 victory. And in Game 3, the Bison dominated Western Illinois 13-4 in 5 innings, and they scored 8 runs in the 4th inning alone.
Yep, and in this past series, they faced USD, winning series 2-1. Again, this team is just doing pretty good. Other than baseball, baseball, I think, is trying to get on track of what softball is doing. You know what I mean? How do you think that's going to play out later during the season?
I mean, softball has been overall pretty consistent so far this year when it comes to having great pitching for the most part. And their hitting at times has been a little inconsistent, but they have had some great games like that last game against Western Illinois where they scored 8 runs in 1 inning. But however, as we're about to get into it, there's certain games that kind of leave you scratching your head.
There's definitely this game on Friday, their first game. They had a rough start, to say the least. They lost 8-0 in 5 innings. And not much you can say, but maybe they just weren't ready for USD.
I mean, it's just kind of interesting, though. Maybe they were, coming off that high of scoring 13 runs against Western Illinois in 5 innings, that they just were, I guess not ready for USD. But I don't even know if I want to say that they weren't ready, though. I mean, you can't say they weren't ready. They just scored 13 runs in 5 innings. So, I mean, it's not like they're not ready. They know how to do it. It's just it didn't happen.
Yep, at least they got back on track for Saturday's doubleheader. The Bison won the first game 2-0. Pitcher Lainey Lau threw her 2nd straight shutout, only gave up 5 hits and had 3 strikeouts. So pitching was definitely a factor in this win.
It's been a factor in a lot of wins this year, too, for NDSU. Lainey Lyle has done a great job in leading that pitching group, as well as some other pitchers on the team. So the softball pitching has done a great job this year, and they're going to need it with some of the other teams in this conference.
Yep. In the second game, they picked up another dub to end the series. They won 5-4. The Coyotes were up 2-0 by the third inning after capitalizing on 2 errors. The Bison came back, scoring 3 runs at the bottom of the third to take the lead.
But USD tied the game at the top of the 5th inning after an RBI triple. However, Angeli Aguilar-Bocage hit an RBI double to retake the lead, and Rihanna Rudd would follow that up with an RBI single that would increase their lead to 2.
Yep.
USD did try to retake the lead, though, in the 7th inning after a home run brought them back within 1, but that is all they would get, and NSU would hang on for the 5-4 victory.
So hanging on, I think that's the biggest factor in this team, too. Even when they're down or when they get up, how can we stay up? And when we're down, can we get ahead as quick as possible?
Yeah, but you gotta have that short memory sometimes.
Yeah,
so even
definitely.
after NSU gave up that home run in the 7th, and it's like, they're only down by 1. Didn't panic, just got the 3 outs that they needed and won the game.
Yep, freshman Belladine led the Bison with 1 hit and 2 RBIs. They are now 23-13 overall. Tomorrow they'll face South Dakota State in Brookings, South Dakota at 3 p.m. SDSU is currently undefeated in conference play, and their pitching is a force to be reckoned with. By who? What's her name? Tori Kanishi. And I got that right. I know we butcher names on the show a lot, but that is right. I mean, what can I say? Against Omaha, 14 innings, pitched every inning, and only gave up 6 hits, no runs.
And you talk about the 2 games that she had pitched in that series. She pitched 2 extra inning games. The first one went to 8, and the second one went to 14, and she pitched the entire game for both of them. So she pitched 20 innings in the Omaha series, gave up 0 runs. Both of the games that she played in, they won only 1-0. So she literally carried them through that series victory.
I say the keys to this game is to overcome her, and also you step your pitching up too. They'll let them hit your ball. Hey, it could be a pitching battle. Lainey Lau, I think she's capable of doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be a dogfight. It usually is between NESU and SDSU.
Definitely.
I mean,
Every sport now.
Yep, we saw the last couple of years though with softball between these 2 teams. It's always very low scoring, very close, and I feel like this time around it's going to be no different.
Definitely. What do you predict? 2-1. I wouldn't say sweep. I'm not going for the sweep, but I will say I think the Bison can get it done 2-1.
I think the Bison can get it done 2-1 as well. SDSU doesn't have as much conference experience as NESU does, as they had to get a conference slate postponed against Western Illinois.
Yep.
But I mean, NESU has done a great job this year, and as long as they can keep those games like that first one against USD, as long as they can keep those games, kind of out of the way, I think they should be just fine.
And to switch it over to baseball, they got 2 more with the Tommies. How do you feel that's going to go? Do you think, they already got game 1 in the bag, but the next 2, do you think they can get the sweep?
They have to keep it going, though. I mean, we've seen series like this for both baseball and softball. They have these great games where they win by 10 or more, and then all of a sudden it just kind of doesn't seem to gel together in the next game, especially in the pitching department. Like, hitting has not had a problem in baseball of getting at least 6 runs in a game. It's the pitching that has trouble keeping less than 7 in a game.
Yeah. Like you said, they definitely are not lacking anything in the batting department, but when it comes to that pitching spot, it can be trouble. But I would say if they can get the sweep, that momentum going into next week, because to remind you, next Tuesday they have a home game against Mayville State, and later that week on Friday, Oral Roberts. If they can go into that next week with that momentum, this team can get back on the right track.
And that's going to be the biggest test of the regular season right there. Oral Roberts, a team who was pretty much dominated in the regular season against everybody conference and non-conference right now. I mean, they're undefeated in conference play. I have a good feeling that they're going to be heavy contenders for the conference title this year. That's going to be in Fargo. So this is going to make things very interesting, and that definitely makes the series interesting too. Thinking about the long term, because we know that the conference tournament is going to be up here in Fargo. Oral Roberts is going to have to probably come back up here for the tournament. So, is NESU ready to take that home field advantage and put it to good use?
And you already know me. I love competition, especially right away. And I feel like if they can get this out of the way early, just to see how they match up, because I think they're in a good spot of the season to, this is kind of how they're playing. Because, in the beginning of the season, they can improve and get better. That's not, that loss early in the season doesn't define them, correct? But I think it says it all. Whatever happens in that series, obviously something can happen in the tournament, upset or whatever, but I think that matchup could be, a defining moment of what they match up in the season.
These are the 2 most recent conference champions, too, facing against each other. Oral Roberts won it 2 years ago, and NESU won it last year, so, I mean, these 2 teams know how to win this conference.
Yep, I can't wait. And it's at home, baby! Hopefully nothing happens with the weather, because, leave it up to Fargo. It's just, oh, my God.
I don't know. I mean, you never know with Mother Nature. I mean, as of right now, I know we're supposed to get rain on the forecast through the middle of next week, so hopefully that could stay off a little bit so we can keep the field dry, but we'll just have to see what happens there.
Can't wait for that matchup. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into Bison's track and field, women's golf, and some NFL updates. Stay tuned.
kid deserves to go hungry. But try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
My name is Becky Parker, and I'm a news anchor at WDAY-TV. I graduated from NDSU in 2010 with a degree in journalism, broadcasting, and mass communication technologies, and then I had an emphasis on broadcasting. Principles of broadcast production and advanced broadcast production. Those were favorites because they were the most relevant for career experience. You're calling people for interviews, you're writing an article. It doesn't just feel like an assignment, it's like actually doing it. I was the news director for the first full semester of the Bison Information Network. The BIN advisor here was very much invested in me to actually have a career in broadcasting. He helped me get my internship and my first job. The people in NDSU's Department of Communication are really interested and helpful in getting students the connections that they need in order to get a job beyond school.
The NDSU Bookstore, where every true fan and alum goes to get their pride on. Gear up with a variety of high-quality t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and more. Made by top-of-the-line brands like Under Armour, Nike, and CI Sport to help you show off your Bison pride. The NDSU Bookstore has everything you need in your 2 favorite colors, green and gold.
And we're back. We're going to dive into Bison track and field. They competed at the USC Early Bird this past weekend, and they did. The men's didn't do that well, but the women's, they got a lot of runner-ups.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it kind of stinks to not have a first place, but when they're consistently running up towards the front, that's definitely a good sign as well.
Definitely. To get into the men's, Trevor Arderdahl, had himself a meet to say the least. Winning the shot put, throwing 18.61 meters, and the hammer throw, 68.41 meters, and the discus, 54.61 meters. this guy, he did his thing. And the thing is, we didn't have a lot top 3 finishers. I think only freshman Demetrius Micaeus, sorry about that, came in second for the 5K in 14 minutes and 54 seconds. But that's pretty much it. Trevor Arderdahl kind of carried the men's.
We know the Otterdahls, but Trevor and Mayton can absolutely dominate the field events.
Definitely a force.
And then, meanwhile, for the women, we had a lot of runner-up finishes for the women, as we mentioned. Annika Stansbury finished second in the 3,000 meter with a time of 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Hope Pringle finished second in the 5,000 meter with a time of just over 18 minutes. Alex Segrist finished second in the javelin with a throw of 43.41 meters. Grace Emeneth finished second in the long jump with a leap of just over 6 meters. And track and field started competition yesterday in California, and they are currently competing right now at the Bryson Clay Invitational in Azusa and the Pacific Coast Intercollegiate and the Beach Invitational in Long Beach. And they will be competing there in California through tomorrow. And meanwhile, we got Bison women's golf as well. They competed earlier this week at the Stampede at the Creek in Omaha, Nebraska this past week and finished second place out of 9 teams, so a good rebound for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And they also finished with 5 players inside the top 10. Catherine Monti finished second with a score of 220. Joe Branchik finished fourth with a score of 223. Maddie Hicks, Elise Hoven, and Cora Larson all finished tied for 10th with a score of 227. Women's golf will have 12 days off before they compete in the Summit League Championships at the Wilderness Ridge Golf Course in Lincoln, Nebraska on April 23rd through the 25th.
This will be a tough one. I know they finished the regular season in good fashion. Second out of 9 teams, can't argue with that. But, hey, next weekend is going to be a tough one.
It's definitely going to be tough, and considering that it's been kind of an up and down spring for this girls' team, but thankfully, like you mentioned, it's good to end on an up in the regular season, and now you got those 12 days to kind of collect your thoughts and get ready for this big tournament at the end of the year.
Definitely. Moving on to the NFL, though, the offseason has been kind of quiet, but it came up last week. Ravens signed Odell Beckham's $15 million in guarantees, $18 million.
Was anybody even aware that the Ravens were in the Odell Beckham sweepstakes?
That's the NFL, right? Anything can happen.
That's just it.
But Daz, what are your initial thoughts?
I definitely did not expect Baltimore to sign Odell Beckham Jr. That one caught me by surprise. And I know a lot of people that I know kind of saw the initial news about it, and they were like, no, this has got to be some one of those deep fake things. So nope, it's real. But also, very expensive contract. $15 million guaranteed over the span of this contract.
Up to 18 mil, too.
Very risky for a guy who didn't play last year and has had 2 torn ACLs in the span of the last 2 seasons.
Yep, just like you said, it's definitely a risk. 30 years old, 2 ACL tears. But I would say 2 seasons ago, he had great production with the Rams. You can't really count that out. I think that's what the Ravens are betting on, and it's just 1 year. But I think Odell Beckham still has a little gas in his tank.
Definitely. I mean, he's definitely not going to be a bad player by any means, but it's just the wonder of, is he worth as much as in his prime anymore?
Yep. That's why I wanted to ask you. I definitely don't think 15. I think 15 mil is a lot. And I don't think anybody thought he was going to get 15 mil because, he was searching for teams. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. You
want to know why the Ravens are doing this, and I think we all know why they're doing this. They're trying to woo Lamar Jackson back with a big-time pass catcher because, I mean, who has been his biggest pass target since he's been drafted by Baltimore? Hollywood Brown, maybe?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I mean, Mark Andrews, back in the day, but Andrews isn't as good anymore. Rashad Bateman, maybe, but it's just like he hasn't had this star wide receiver to throw to, so maybe the Ravens are trying to convince him, like, hey, we got star players, come on back.
Right. I think, like you said, this is a little nudge to Lamar Jackson that the Ravens are trying to do to try to woo him to make him stay, but I think Lamar has washed his hands with them. I don't think this is going to make him stay because they didn't want to pay him. And even in Odell's press conference, he says, we haven't forgot about Lamar Jackson. We still love Lamar Jackson. I'm paraphrasing, but if you love him so much, why won't you pay him? I don't think you getting a pass catcher for 1 year is going to be like, oh, maybe I can do something here with the Ravens. Maybe I should stay. I don't think it's going to be like that. And I think it's kind of childish because it's kind of like, okay, they're saying the ball's in your court, Lamar. We got you a pass catcher. This is what you wanted. We got pieces around you now, a piece around you now. What are you going to do about it? So that's why I feel.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of a little indifferent on this situation about it. I mean, I definitely, the situation with Lamar right now is kind of hairy because of the fact that also no teams have really showed interest in getting Lamar right now recently. And that's kind of the one little bit of leverage the Ravens seem to have right now. It's like, hey, no other teams want you. I mean, you should come back here because this is really going to be your only option right now. Otherwise, you're sitting out this season. And I'm not sure if Lamar wants to do that. He might. We don't know. But I'm not sure if he wants to, if he wants to be a competitive player.
We'll see.
But, regardless, it's like, I don't know, if anybody can pay him, and that's the issue. And I think I brought this up before. It's just like, can anybody really, if he brings down his asking price, maybe some teams will want to fork up some of that money. But it's just right now, I think a lot of teams are kind of stuck with cap right now, and they don't want to get themselves stuck in a long-term deal that's going to really hurt them. Or like, sure, you get Lamar, but then you have no money to get any other star players, and that might be the issue with some of the teams that could be interested in him.
Well, I'll ask you this. Do you think if they don't pay him, do you think he will sit out? Do you think he will show up week 1 for the Ravens?
I mean, I would like to think that he would play, but seeing all the things that he has talked about with that team and how he seems to have one foot out the door already, I really don't think he will. Yeah. But at the same time, I just don't know if I'm going to see his situation get any better with other teams unless he asks for his price to go down a little bit, because I still don't know anybody who's going to be willing to pay that big price tag for him.
I'd say his back is against the wall now after that moves for the Ravens. That's why I said it's kind of, they gave him a little bit of nudge because now he kind of has no excuse, Only excuse he has is pay me because I'm top 10 easily or top 5 easily. But now he has a pass catcher. Now it's kind of like you have to see what's going to happen. Just like you two go out there and let's just see what's going to happen. And then things can move forward from there. So that's why it's kind of like, but if I were him, I'm not paying a down in week 1 because pay me my money. Why does everybody else? It's kind of like, I know you hate this for sure, the tit for tat, seeing everybody else's contract and now you begging for that contract. But it's like, if I'm better than this guy, he's better than most guys, and the contract that they offered him, the $100 million or whatever that they offered him, is just ridiculous. So it's kind of like the pride thing. And Lamar Jackson, as you can see, they haven't came to a resolution. So, his pride is definitely high.
Well, and I think we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and maybe it was like the Browns. Maybe they were playing fifth-dimensional chess. Like, we're going to pay Deshaun Watson this massive contract right now because we know that the Ravens and the Bengals are both going to have to sign their star quarterbacks to big deals coming soon, and we're going to be making them ask for more than this, and they probably won't be able to afford that. So maybe, I honestly, I don't think this is what it well, I'm not giving Jimmy Haslam too much credit, though. I mean, that's probably not what he was doing, but honestly, he might have accidentally made a good situation by screwing over the rest of the teams in his division.
Speaking of screwing up, you still got some problems there with A-Rod. I don't think he's going to – you guys are in a tough position. You guys are trying to get out of, I don't know what, the first rounders. You guys are going to have to give some stuff up, man. You have no choice. Aaron Rodgers has to get out of there. Whoa, what do you think the Packers are going to do regarding
I accidentally put my face before the camera before. But what do I think they're going to do? I honestly couldn't tell you right now. I mean, it's really a long, drawn-out process. Yeah. It's just right now, I will give credit to the Jets GM, Joe Douglas. He is playing this very smart right now and kind of waiting us out.
Waiting?
I mean, you said yesterday that the Jets kind of have us in, our backs against the wall. Like, we're kind of in a no-win situation here. Yeah. But, I think I would kind of agree that the Jets do have some leverage in this situation right now. However, they were one of the teams that was interested in signing Odell Beckham Jr. for Aaron Rodgers, and now he's not going to be there. He's obviously going to the Ravens. So I don't know if that hurts or helps the situation in any way. But I think right now it's just that the Packers really wanted a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers, at least a first-round pick. The Jets are not going to budge for that, it seems like. So at this point, if I'm the Packers, honestly. Now, if I'm the Packers, I'm going to wait this out until a few days before the draft. I'm going to see if maybe I can convince the Jets this one last time to try to give me a first-round pick because, I want to get something before this draft. I want to get some picks before this draft. I don't want to wait till after the draft to do this.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I think we're going to get something in the next week and a half, but it's just the question is, are the Jets going to fork over a first-round pick, or are we just going to have to deal with some second-round picks?
Second. Which is not bad.
And
a second and a third would not be bad.
Considering I think the Jets are going to be taking on all of Aaron Rodgers' contract, too, I will definitely just take some picks if that means that we don't have to have that giant cap on us anymore.
Yep. You mentioned the draft. Good segue. Packers have been looking at some great looks, especially on the receiver aspect. Quentin Johnson from TCU, man. If you guys pull that, I know he's a young receiver, especially with Christian Watson, NDSU alum, being so young. But if he can match up with that, that will be a vicious combo next season.
Yeah, and I was just watching some footage of Johnston. I mean, he looks kind of reminds you of a prime Randy Moss type of guy. Like he can break tackles left and right, and very tall, very big, 250 pounds as well. Good vertical threat and. Very good player. Yeah. And the worry I have with the Packers, though, about that is, I know the Packers have showed some interest in him, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get him. I feel like he might get drafted before we can make a move. That's part of the reason why I think the Packers want an earlier first-round pick, so they can possibly get somebody like him. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But meanwhile, another guy who I think we could realistically get, who could be a second-round pick, is a guy named Darnell Washington out of Georgia.
Oh, the big guy.
Massive tight end out of Georgia. 6'7" and 265 pounds. Just a big, massive man. Yeah. And great run blocker. Like, they were showing footage of him at the combine, and he was actually pushing the sled better than some offensive linemen that were there.
Pure power.
So, that's something that I would like to see, considering the Packers don't have any tight ends right now. But there's a lot of good players in this draft this year at all different levels. It's going to be very crazy in the top 10 picks for quarterbacks because we got 4 quarterbacks that are probably going to go in the top 10. You got Stroud, Young, Levis, and Richardson. They're all probably going to go pretty early. Yeah. And also Hendon Hooker might go in the first round as well, in the late first round. So we'll have to see what happens with the quarterbacks too.
Yeah, and then with the Cowboys, we need, O-line. That's what Cowboys history. We always focus on that line first.
Which is kind of crazy considering you guys always usually have good offensive linemen on your team. It's just unfortunately there's always a hole or two somewhere.
Yeah. I'd say we should get a right guard first. We got a left guard with Chuma. Running back, tie down.
You do lose Connor McGovern, so at that right guard spot, so that would be a perfect fit.
Right guard. Running back probably to complement Tony Pollard because I think they're still scared with Zeke, that 1-2 punch. They probably want that back. Tight end, we lost Schultz, so we probably want a good tight end. We would love to get that tight end. You just mentioned the big fella from Georgia, but
there's a lot of good tight ends in this draft this year. Yes, as much as I don't want to praise an SDSU player, but Tucker Kraft, he'll probably be a first or second round pick.
Yeah, definitely. And even on the defensive side, I mean, I wouldn't matter if we get a corner. I really want a corner. We got beat so bad in the secondary, so I think the Cowboys, they have a lot of different spaces to fill.
You guys did pick up Stephon Gilmore in free agency. Corner, but you're definitely going to need a backup plan for that because he's not going to be here too long.
Yep. Well, we'll have to see what happens. I can't wait to the draft, by the way. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm Dash Mentzel.
And we'll catch you guys next week. Go Bison.